In a world where online communities depend on safety and connection, moderators are the quiet guardians who keep these spaces thriving, yet their work often goes unseen. Welcome to the PhD with Women on IT, Hack the Future. My name is Jamil Navarrosa, and today's PhD Positivity Hack delivered will be by our guest, Rachel Kowert. Our topic for today is Behind the Screens Empowering Community Moderators for Safer Gaming Spaces. Episode 202 starts here. Let me remind you this is a grassroots community that focuses on women in IT, an inclusive form of feminine technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my module, and empathy is critical in empowering community moderators for safer gaming spaces. Before we start our discussion, I want to take a moment to shine a spotlight on some incredible achievements from our community. Hooray to Soshen Shabnia for hosting an amazing and successful workshop at DevFest Fusion 4.0 last December 6, guiding participants through AI agent system with Google ADK and Vertex AI is no small feat. Kudos to you, the organizers, and the vibrant community that made it unforgettable. Catch our former Positivity Hack delivered guest, Tracy Brower, at Courage to Lead How to Preserve and Find Joy at Work on January 20 at Dayton. Expect thoughtful insights, practical wisdom, and an inspiring conversation on resilience, purpose, and happiness at work. Leaders and change makers, this one is for you, so save the date. Now let's go back to our topic titled Behind the Screens Empowering Community Moderators for Safer Gaming Spaces. Join us for the final Positivity Hack delivered episode of the year featuring Rachel Kowert, Ph.D. research psychologist, award winning author, and one of the world's leading voices on mental health, and trust safety in digital games. Rachel has advised the U.S. Congress, United Nations, and Department of Homeland Security, and is the founder of Psychgeist, home to widely followed YouTube channel, podcast, and the 20 book series of the Psychgeist of Pop Culture. Discover how her work with Shine a Light Gaming alongside her extensive research is shaping the future of moderator training and support, building safer, strong gaming communities in 2026 and beyond. Please join me giving a warm welcome to Rachel. So,
Hello.
hi Rachel, thank you so much for joining us again for the second time. And to start, where in the world are you today?
I'm in Canada. It's cold and snowy.
Oh, that's a very nice December.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So to start on a positive note, what is one recent interaction or moment in a gaming community that made you feel truly safe, connected, or happy?
Ooh, I love all of the gaming communities I'm a part of. It's hard to just pick one, but I do have a Discord community for Psychgeist. It's for the people who are working on the Psychgeist of Pop Culture books. And they have been sharing their Christmas crafts. And that's been really nice to see. Like, we talk a lot about work and we talk a lot about games, but sometimes it's nice just to talk about something totally different.
How do you personally define healthy in an online gaming community? What does it look like, sound like, and feel like?
A healthy community is difficult to define. It's some of the work I'm doing now, and I know some of the work at the Thriving in Games group as well, is really trying to figure out actually how do you operationalize and measure that. I think we can kind of have the vibes or feel what a good and healthy community looks like, but how do we actually pinpoint it? I think for me, it would be low levels of disruption. So low levels of toxicity and harm happening in the space, and also high levels of resilience, because I don't think we can ever expect a space fully to have zero disruptions or zero harm. There's always going to be, one bad egg in the bunch, but it's about if the community can be resilient to addressing any harms and then overcoming them.
So, what game or community do you think currently does an exceptional job with safety and moderation? And what specific practice do they use that you really admire?
Oh, that's a tough question. I wish I would have had these questions ahead of time. Oh goodness. I think there's a few. Activision, I like to talk about Activision and Call of Duty a lot because they're doing a lot of proactive trust and safety work, a lot of stuff with voice moderation, but they're also doing a lot of scientific communication and giving back to the fields. They have an academic partnership with Caltech. They just published a new article in the last week or so. So they're publishing work and talking about the things that they're learning about how to address disruption and toxicity in their spaces, what works, what doesn't, and what other people can try. So I think that that's really kind of the gold standard of not only innovating, but also sharing that knowledge with everyone else.
So, Rachel, given the finding that many leaders get zero training, if a new community manager could only implement one 30-minute training module, what
Mhm.
must it cover?
Well, if we go with the research, which I tend to do, the digital community leaders, which includes moderators and community managers, rated safety as their number one need for a module. And what was really interesting is we did a series of roundtables to kind of dig into this quantitative survey research. And we said, okay, safety. Does that mean how to keep your community safe? Does that mean psychological safety? Does that mean physical safety? And the answer was no, that means safety for me as the digital leader. Like, how do I stay safe? Because I'm on the front lines of it. My face is usually out there. My name and identity and identifying characteristics, if I'm employed by a studio, are usually out there on social media. And if the tables turn and I become the subject of hate and harassment or doxing or any of these other things that could happen, how do I keep myself safe? And I think that was really enlightening for me because not at all what I expected, but it was consistently the number one thing that they're looking for. So if there was only one module to make, it would be operational safety and security tailored toward protecting digital leadership themselves.
We often focus on the action of toxicity. So, Rachel, what is the single most misunderstood motivation behind toxic behavior that a moderator should keep in mind when responding?
Mm. I think it's important to keep in mind the cultural normalization of it. A lot of times, people, when they are using language that is harmful or hateful, like specifically when we talk about the use of hate speech, these are not beliefs that they necessarily internalize. They are beliefs they are words or phrases that they have heard and then are regurgitating because they feel like this is what we do here, this is the norm, this is the culture within this given space. We know from the research that people adjust to the social norms of any given space. And so if they're seeing a lot of certain terminology used and it's not only not being punished in a way, but is being, applauded or lauded somehow by the rest of the community, they're going to adapt it and they're going to start to use it. So I think that intent should be something to consider, whether it's intent it's like for the lulz or whether it's just like I'm trying to fit in here, versus necessarily malicious intent with the use of these different phrases and terms and behaviors.
For a small community like a streamer's Discord that doesn't have a large team, what's one easy, immediate trust and safety best practice they can implement today?
Have a moderator. I think it's really important, especially with small streamers, that you're not necessarily your own moderator for a few reasons. One, there's other things you have to focus on, like creating your content, whatever it is you're doing on your live stream. But two, I mean, it's a good safeguard for your mental health and wellness to not necessarily have to engage with all of the content that is being directed sometimes personally at you as an individual in a public forum. I remember I have some colleagues who have been targeted of intense harassment campaigns, and one of the things they learned and shared with me was like, you shouldn't read the comments. I guess we've all heard that phrase, like, don't read the comments, because it's not healthy and it's not productive and it's not going to do anything positive for your mental well-being in order to do that. But those comments do have to be read by someone and they do have to be removed. So I think even if you don't have a lot of resources, you get a trusted friend or a champion in your community and talk to them about if they would feel comfortable in taking on a moderator role.
What is the most common piece of misinformation or misunderstanding about effective community safety that you'd like to debunk for our audience?
That it is a cost sink or a time sink or a resource sink. I think there's this idea, I know there is this idea that proactive safety, going above and beyond what we're expected to of like the bar, the compliance minimum, is a cost, and there's not a big return on that cost. But we know that that's just not true from the research. We know that people make decisions based on how they feel in their communities. We know that people base decisions on how much trust they have in a particular platform or gaming space to keep them safe when they're engaged in these communities. So if I could only debunk one myth, it would be that one. It would be that one.
So, beside formal training, what kind of emotional or peer support mechanism do you believe is most crucial for people in high stress volunteer moderator roles?
I think that peer support, I mean, I think you even have it in the question. When you look at the research, peer support comes up time and again as what volunteer moderators in particular say that they want and need, and is helpful for their mental well-being in these kind of high stress, high pressure positions. The challenge is there aren't a lot of these peer support groups that are available to them, other than maybe like private WhatsApp groups maybe, or Facebook groups or that sort of thing. It would be great to see a more formalized support system develop for people in these roles, because being able to bounce ideas off each other or being able to vent with someone who just really understands what that role is like and the pressures that it contains is really, really valuable. So just peer support generally across the board, I think.
If you could put one rule at the very top of every community code of conduct, knowing it would be actually stick and guide behavior, what would that rule be?
Oh goodness. I struggle with this question because I'm currently working on some research around community guidelines and code of conduct and really trying to tease apart what is the optimum way to present this information. Is it about what is allowed here or what we're aspiring to, or is it about what is not allowed here and what is prohibited? I think if it was a community guidelines, I tend to put that in the bucket of like aspirational. I think what should go at top is what is the core value of your community? Like every community is going to be different, and all of these guidelines, whether it's a code of conduct or community guidelines, should be values driven. So is your value diversity? Is your value safety? Is your value fun? Whatever your core value is of your community should really be explicitly made clear at the top. But I guess actually what I would love to see is just all communities have community guidelines and codes of conduct, because we're not even there yet.
Looking ahead at 2026 and beyond, what is one major shift or improvement you hope to see in how large game companies approach community safety and moderator support?
I would love to see more proactive safety, like a safety across the board, more proactive, moving beyond compliance. And I think we are seeing that, and we're starting to see the trends towards that. I think that regulatory discussions have really increased over the last year, and while games are not always included in those conversations, like it is games adjacent where these conversations are happening. And I think it is motivating people to reevaluate the value in going above and beyond and looking at proactive approaches. When it comes to moderators and community managers specifically, I am going to talk about this at GDC this year. I'm giving a talk at GDC in March called something to the effect of why the future of trust and safety is leadership led, because I think that our digital leaders are an untapped resource to help support and bolster our trust and safety efforts in collaboration with policy and tooling, which are the two things we use pretty ubiquitously across the board in tech, but also in games specifically. And I do think 2026 will be the year for that. I think we're already, I mean, we're having this conversation now. I think these conversations are already happening. We're seeing more research come out. The research from China Light Gaming came out a couple months ago, but there's also other groups who are working on moderator support and infrastructure. For example, Christchurch Call out of New Zealand is also doing some work in this space. So I think that 2026 will be the year that we're really having these conversations in broader circles.
Have you noticed any specific types of toxic behavior that have become more prevalent or difficult to deal with within gaming spaces over the last year?
Yes. Misogyny. Misogyny is really, if there was a buzzword of the year, Cynthia Miller Idris published this wonderful book this year called Man Up, and it's about the rising misogyny in our general discourse and the world. And she has a whole section on there on gaming, and she talks about how misogyny has really become a floodgate for more extreme exploitation of these spaces, for example, by designated terrorist groups or by people who are looking to mobilize into violence. And the issue with misogyny is that it's so insidious, and it's become, again, normalized part of a lot of the discourse we have online, but it's been very specifically associated with gamer culture almost from the very beginning. So it's really hard to kind of flag and moderate, because in a lot of cases, it's masked under humor, or it's words that wouldn't necessarily be flagged on a list of like prohibited words on a keyword list. But it is really embedded in the culture. When we look at the prevalence of people being exposed to misogynistic ideologies, it's nearly 100% of players have seen it, either directed at them or in the environment. So that one's tricky, because there isn't like a real clear answer of how to address it other than shifting cultural norms, which again is what I think that digital leadership is really poised to do. But it takes time, and it's slow, and it takes, really focused attention to try and do that. And step one is acknowledging that it's a problem, which I think we haven't quite gotten to yet. But I think that Dr. Miller Idris, her book is really a great step forward, and everyone's starting to recognize, oh, it's not just a joke, or it's not just boys being boys saying these certain phrases. They are actually harmful, and they're opening the door to more harmful behavior happening in the future.
How can moderators effectively balance the need for freedom to be themselves with the need for protection from harassment, as highlighted in your research?
It's a really good question. It is a hard balance. I don't have a good answer. It's a hard balance. I think that how do they balance it is asking that question and answering it for themselves. As an example, some people who are heads of community or community managers for large gaming studios are required as part of their job to have a presence on the internet with their face. Their part of their job is going to events and being in the public eye. So like for those individuals, that's going to be a different conversation about how do you keep yourself safe and how do you protect yourself, versus other people, maybe volunteer moderators or people who aren't the heads of the community, but maybe somewhere lower in the pyramid triangle of community engagement. Maybe they have more freedom to keep their identity a little more personal, or use a pseudonym that isn't necessarily their real name. I think each individual is going to have to consider what works for them. But of course, there are some general safety principles that you can keep in mind, which is why we need that operational security module to be built, so we can all know what those are and be on a level playing field.
What's one piece of advice or inspiration you would give to someone who is thinking about becoming a moderator but is nervous about the commitment or the emotional toll?
I would recommend reading Victoria Tran's book, her community management book, which name now, of course, eludes me because I'm being asked to think about it on the spot. But there's only one. So if you Google it, you'll find it. I think that book is a really great overview of kind of what the job entails if you're getting into community management. I think the second thing would be find someone else who's doing it and talk to them. A lot of the strategies we've learned up to this point are peer-to-peer strategies, and learning from doing and learning from people who've been doing it longer, and they can give you a real insight into what it entails. All of that to say, every digital community leader I've ever met does it for the love of the community. very empathetic people, very driven people, people who love being with other people and fostering a community and making change in the world that they want to see. Like these communities, for many people, are primary sources of social and emotional support. It's their found family, and having somebody able to rein in that community and make sure it's fostering a space of resilience and safety and connection. It's a really important job. But you're right, it does come with a lot of challenges and personal considerations to think about before jumping into it.
So, speaking of advices, what advice would you give to females to help their career start an entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, my female entrepreneurs. Hi, friends. I think it's just to do it. So I embarked on my entrepreneurial journey during COVID. It kind of grew out of a need for a hobby. We all had a lot of extra time, and I built Psychgeist as a YouTube channel, and now it has since grown into 2 book series published by Play Story Press. There's a newsletter, there's a podcast, there's still the YouTube channel. And there's never a right time, I suppose. And you don't need to wait for someone to invite you to do it. Just do it. Just throw it out into the world and see what happens.
What are the top 3 soft skills all career driven females, in your opinion, should have?
Mm. Delegation. Delegation is really important. Going back to that conversation earlier about small streamers, what can they do for trust and safety? Find a moderator and delegate that role. I think delegation is really important. I think as women, sometimes we think we're just going to do it all. And we can do it all, obviously, but it doesn't mean you should do it all. So I think delegation is really important. I think adaptability would be my second one. Just like with Psychgeist, I started with a certain idea of what I thought I was doing. I thought I was creating a YouTube channel for parents to provide information about video games and address some of the common fears and myths. And I was like, parents are going to love this. Turns out parents are a small proportion of the people who watch my YouTube channel. It's actually mostly watched by people in the gaming industry and people who are studying games in higher education, which is great. Also my people, and I'm very happy to serve that community. But knowing this now, I've had to adapt how I'm approaching my content creation or how I'm engaging with the community, because it's not necessarily the community I thought I was creating this work for. So delegation, adaptability, and then I think communication. Being able to communicate what it is you're doing and why it's important in different ways to different audiences. So the way I'm talking now on this podcast to other women in tech is definitely different than the way I would engage or communicate with parents or parents at a primary school, even versus parents at a high school. So I guess that does tie in with adaptability. So adaptability and communication. And then of course, delegation. Don't do it all. We have to have time to do fun things too. It can't all be about work.
You mentioned games, and I think you're a very good gamer. And when you need a break from the intensity of community work and research, what is your current go-to comfort game?
Ooh, my current comfort game. I think my comfort game will always be Animal Crossing. I love Animal Crossing. I love that I can pick it up and put it down. I love that I feel accomplished, even if it's just going in and clearing the cockroaches out of my house, because I haven't been on in a long time. It's low pressure. It's colorful. I think that Animal Crossing will always have that special place in my heart. But I will say, for winter break, I'm going on holiday starting tomorrow. Expedition 33 is going to become my new comfort game. It won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, and I haven't played it yet. So we'll see how comforting that one is.
Yes. And what is your strategy for problem solving?
Problem solving is something I do all the time, not just as an entrepreneur or a woman in games, but also in my house with my children, helping them problem solve. And I find that my go-to strategy is like one tangible step at a time. Like the problem may be really big, or maybe the problem is really small, but like, what is the one tangible step I can take that it's going to take me a little bit closer to solving that problem? And I think when it becomes operationalizable, like when you can have a step that you can actually do, what can I actually do right now with the resources I have right now to try and tackle this big thing? It makes it less scary and also helps you overcome whatever that challenge is.
None of us are able to achieve success without some help along the way. Is there a particular person who you are grateful towards who helped to get where you are today?
So many. There's so many. And I did know this question was coming, and I made notes and I just listed a bunch of people. There's so many. I think if I had to go back, like I did my postdoc at the University of Münster, and Professor Torsten Quandt was my lab leader there. And he's the one who really showed me the world of publishing and how to make those negotiations and get those contracts, and how to make a really clear kind of publishing pipeline when you have a large scale research project. And then there's Drew Davidson, who's my editor at Play Story Press, who gave me my book series, The Psychgeist of Pop Culture, which, gives me life. And without him, I wouldn't be able to be doing all of these things that I'm doing here. And then I guess like my husband, I should thank my husband. I've known him my whole life, it seems like. And, he's been very supportive and very along for the ride, no matter where this job is taking me.
Are you working on any new exciting projects right now, Rachel?
I am. So following up on the research from Shine a Light Gaming, I'm now talking to a couple of different organizations about various ways in which we can create this moderator training to support digital community leaders, which is very exciting. I am continuing on the Psychgeist of Pop Culture series. The last book of 2025 is right behind me, Stardew Valley, came out, but we have a whole pipeline of new books coming out in 2026. And I also have a new series of books with Play Story Press called Games and, which is a more academic lens. So the first one is Games and Nostalgia. And so, the empire just grows. There's lots of things to look forward to, lots of science, lots of nerdiness, lots of games, and, lots of support for the community managers and the community moderators. I'm really excited to take that work to the next step and actually start creating some of these modules and training programs.
That's very nice. And Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Women are like tea bags. We don't know our true strength until we are in hot water." In life, how are you in hot water, Rachel? How are you brewing?
How am I brewing? How long can I brew for? I think that as the year comes to an end, I'm feeling very ready for the year to come to an end. Somebody reminded me earlier, I did a trust and safety workshop with my colleague, Elizabeth Kilmer, this year back in February. And she brought it up to me the other day. And I was like, that was this year? Like, how long has this year been? I think I'm just brewing in tiredness. And I'm ready to be taken out of the mug and just relax until January.
That's very relatable. Me too.
Right? We're all
Yes.
there. We're all there.
And what is the number one book you can sit and think, "Oh, I wish I read before I started my career"?
I was lucky that I read a lot of books, of good books, before I started my career. I think the books that I would want to read before I started weren't written yet. For instance, Victoria Tran's book, Mastering Community Management, that's what it's called. I would have loved to have read that, 5 years ago, but it wasn't written 5 years ago. I published this book in 2014 with Torsten Quandt called Video Game Debate, which is a series of essays about how video games impact us physically, socially, psychologically. And the motivation for writing that book was specifically, this is the book that I wish that I had read before I had started my career. So I don't know if I can pinpoint one, because I feel like I had the opportunity to read a lot of different things when my master's was in counseling. So I read some different stuff there. But the game study stuff and the community management stuff, I'm old. It didn't exist back then.
Let's imagine that you could meet anyone in the world for a private breakfast. Who would it be, and where would you choose to meet?
Oh, I remember I sent an answer to this, and now I don't remember. I remember who I said, but I don't remember the reasons that I gave. I know I said Sonia Livingstone. I'm just going to have to wing my answer on my notes here. Sonia is a wonderful advocate for child's rights, and she has been in the game for sure longer than I have, in terms of battling the drum for, like, let's step away from moral panic and let's talk about some reasonable safeguards. Let's talk about how we can make the world a better place, especially for children and their use of technology. She is at the London School of Economics. So I think we'd meet for tea, I think is what I said, because the question is, who could you meet for breakfast? We do an afternoon tea. I'm a little bougie, maybe someplace fancy, maybe a Harrods afternoon tea, like a touristy bougie fancy, because maybe she knows a better place. She lives there. She probably does. And yeah, I would just like to talk about work and what she's up to and how she got here and what she's working on. And she's been doing a lot of advocacy work around these social media bans now that are being discussed across the globe. And yeah, we've never met in person. We're only internet friends, so it would be great to sit down. So Sonia, if you're watching, let's have tea next time I'm in the UK. That'd be great.
Yes, that will be great. Can you please give us your favorite life lesson quote?
Be persistent. I think in the end, persistence is 90% of it. Ask for the things that you want and be persistent about them. Yeah.
Be persistent. So, Rachel, thank you so much for uh, joining us. And this is a very insightful conversation. And for our last questions, for everyone listening, what is one small positive thing they can commit to doing this week to actively contribute to a safer, stronger community space?
Share a thought in a public forum about exactly that. I have a newsletter, as I mentioned, a Psychgeist newsletter, and I was looking back at all of the issues that I have done. I do one a month, and in my January 2025 one, I had a little piece where I said, "Let this be your New Year's resolution, which is to share something about your work in a way that's understandable and relatable to a more general audience." So, like outside of a research audience, in a public forum, like on a LinkedIn post, on a Facebook post, on Blue Sky, wherever you happen to be. Because if each and every one of us did that, even just one a day, one a month, one a year, imagine how much change that can have and how people are really understanding the world or the steps they can take or your subject matter expertise. So think about the power of scientific communication and share a thought in your area of expertise and things that you know about so we can all learn from you.
And that's it from 202 of the PhD live stream. Thank you so much to our guest, Rachel Kowert. To stay updated and ensure you never miss a positivity hack delivered, follow Women on IT and turn on notifications to be alerted once a video has been released. We'll be back on January 14th next year with our amazing guest, Rebecca Murray. Until then, happy holidays, everyone. And thank you to our fabulous team, Herminia, Desiree, and AJ. And as always, our positivity quote comes from positive thinking only and goes look for something positive in each day. Even if some days you have to look a little harder. Today is your day. Hack the future. Hack the positivity you want. Thank you.